It's time to start. Take a seat, people. Well, welcome to the last meeting of 2020, what is it, 2023? How's that? Is that better? They tell me I need to swallow this microphone. That's hard for me. Okay. Who's here for the first time? Come on, don't be shy. Who's here? There's one. Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jordan, KK7NVI.
Great, thanks, Jordan. Who else? Who else is here for the first time? Is that all? Just one? We have Jordan? Well, welcome. Okay, next on the agenda, upgrades. Who has upgraded since last time we met? We have an upgrade. Amazing. Is it my birthday? Tell us who you are and what you upgraded to.
I am a I7UG and I upgraded to Extra.
Wow. Good work. I'll take that back. Thank you. Well, good. I like extras. I'm an extra. We're an elite club. Okay, who else do we have that's upgraded? Anybody? No more? Okay, classes. What classes are running? Mike, you doing them?
We're not running a class at the moment, but we'll probably be starting another one in January. Is that correct, James? January 8th. See, he's way ahead of me. He knows more about it than I do. That'll be the technician class. That'll run for about 10 weeks. Is that correct? And also, James has a weekly net where he goes over general questions. And you can get on that net and ask him all kinds of questions. He has all the answers, so I strongly recommend if you want to upgrade to general to get on that. That's on 147.120, is that? Oh, 160. So get on that net. It's on Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Excellent, thanks, Mike. Rick, what do we got going on in the bookstore?
Well, we still have some discounted titles. Hints and Kinks for the Radio Amateur. ARL's Best of the Doctor is in Volume 1. Amateur Radio Transceiver Performance Testing. And a couple more. High-Speed Multimedia. Well, that was it. Yes, High-Speed Multimedia for Amateur Radio. Also, if I could get a show of hands from those here, is there any interest in getting an order that may or may not be here prior to Christmas for any of the titles like the 25th edition of the Antenna Book or the 100th edition of the Handbook? I do have 2020 and 2021 copies here, but none of the 2023. If you do want to make a special order, remember we do give a 10% discount. So anyone interested in the 2024 ARL wall calendar? They are promoting that this week. So my email, rickg916@gmail. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. And no shipping as well, right?
What's that?
No shipping.
No shipping. No sales tax.
Okay. No sales tax and no shipping. Rick can order any ARRL product for you. Just let him know. All right. Let's see what's next. Oh, elections. Elections. Mike, you want to tell us where we stand?
Okay, for the elections, there's only 2 positions that are open. Of course, we will take any nominations from the floor if anybody would like to run for my position, for instance. It's a lot of work, but hey, it's a lot of fun. You get to talk at the meetings, one thing. Got a microphone in your hand, you know, that's something. We have two people that are running for offices that are going vacant. One is Sean, K9SLE, if you would stand, and maybe I'll have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're going to do as treasurer, besides steal the money.
Oh, steal the money. Aren't we supposed to print more money? Hey, I'm Sean, K9SLE. Probably talked to many of you. I know the current treasurer's been around for 28 years now, and he's done a hell of a job, and a heck of a job, sorry. Forget this is going over. But I think it's time to move on, and you know, I'm willing to take on the challenge, and I think it'll be good. We'll work close together over this next year, make sure it's a smooth transition, and then we'll see. I don't know if I'll make it 28 years, but I'll give it a damn good try.
We'll keep you around. We'll find a way. Okay, and the other position that's open is for the microvolt editor, and Noji Ratzleff, KN0JI, has volunteered for that position if he's unopposed. He's not here tonight. It's kind of hard for people to get up from Utah County, but Noji has a lot of experience putting together a newsletter. He does the UARC Shack every month, so we should have a good publication. And everybody else is just running again. So my name is Mike, KI7MTI. I'm one of the two program chairs. Our other program chair, Jerry, WJ3RI, she is sick tonight, so she didn't come. And then we'll go around and I'll let everybody who's here introduce themselves and tell what their particular job title is. And I'll start with our president.
My name is Marvin Match. My call sign is Kilo Alpha 7 Tango Papa Hotel. I've been a ham for about 35 years, I think. I'm an extra class. That's me. Who else do we have on the board?
Hi, my name is James, KK7AVS, Secretary for UARC. Part of my job is just making sure that everybody keeps up with their renewals and club memberships, but I have the fun ability to talk to people whenever they reach out to the club and have any needs. So I get to take the time to get to know each and every one of you individually and personally, and it's what I really like about the job, and I really appreciate my position.
Hi, my name's Bruce Faraday, KF7OZK, and been vice president for a few years, and I like being a support and background for this club, and as you can tell, we like playing with the toys because we've got a few of them here tonight. So anyway, that's me, and I'm just writing things up so that we all know what's going on here.
Great. Who else we got? Linda. Wait a second. Let me give you the microphone.
My name is Linda Reeder, and I'm N7HBF. I'm the executive vice president, and I try to help out in any way I can with the microvolt. I've done quite a few articles besides my main one that I do, feature of the month. And I like to help out whenever I can, and I enjoy being in this club, and I'm just try to do a good job and help wherever I can.
Thanks, Linda. Who else we have? Who am I forgetting? Yeah, Chuck, you're still in for another half a month. Yeah, right. It's not like me to stand in one place. I'm always all over the place.
I have nothing to say except it's been a pleasure to be treasurer all these years, so just time to move on.
One more over here. About 2 more weeks, Betty.
I only got 4 pages. I need 4 more.
Do we have any other nominees? We have to ask that.
Anybody want to be nominated as president?
Oh. Rick Asper? Okay,
Okay, that's our current board, right?
there we are.
Okay. I will mention I have thoroughly enjoyed working with these people this last year. They are wonderful. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rick Mead. He's going to talk to us about NTS, which stands for National Traffic System. Is that right?
Among other things.
Version 2.
One thing before that, up or down? Do we vote them in? Anybody opposed? Unanimous. Okay, Kelly.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight on message handling. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to give you a quick introduction of myself to give you an idea of why I'm up here even talking about handling messages. And my job is going to be to run around this room as much as I can so the cameraman can't really follow me. I was originally licensed as a novice class operator in 1966 when I was in high school. Back in those days, you got a novice class license. It was good for a year. You had to do something with it and move on, or you lost it. And so I became a general class in 67. Started off as WN7FTW, went to WA7FTW, and some other things happened after that, and I'm now W7VQ. I did get the opportunity to go to radio school in the military back in the day in 69, and that was at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. So I got some good experience from them on how to actually run radios, run nets, and so forth. Work was busy for me. Didn't get to stay as active in the hobby as I would have liked, but I'm back into it now. And as is noted by, there we go. On this thing for this, I'm currently National Traffic System official relay station. I've also got a digital relay station. I'm part of that. I'm assistant section manager for Utah as well, and a couple of other things that I do. I'm part of the Emergency Preparedness Council for Bountiful City, and in that vein, I've completed virtually all of the personal development series for FEMA courses, as well as completed the incident management team training for the logistics section chief, which was really an education on 213s, and we'll talk about those here in a little bit. So what I wanted to share with you tonight, this is actually a presentation that I did back in November for the digital conference, the EC meeting that was had, and I made a couple of changes to this just to make it a little bit more interesting. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about is National Traffic System, message formats, how to use them, and some interesting things that are currently being changed in that space. So what I'm going to do is go over a brief history. We'll talk about the ARL radio format, ICS 213 formats, the 213RR, talk a little bit about National Traffic System 2.0. Who has heard of that? Everything that's going on. Thank you. There's a letter that is available now that started back in October. There he is. Okay. I'm recognizing people all of a sudden that I didn't notice had just come in. So I wanted to share some information about that, and then we'll have some questions, and I'll share some other resources that are out there. So the Relay and American Radio Relay League. It actually, back in the day, relay usually meant that you were passing traffic or passing a message from somebody that was 3 or 4 blocks down the street to the next person that's 3 or 4 blocks further down the street. Those are the old spark gap days. And back in that day, that was about as far as a message could actually go. It started up in 1915 as a formal ARRL system. In 49, coming out of World War II, is in an issue of QST actually outshined the structure of the national traffic system as it's used today. So it's been around for a while. Transmit and receive modes, voice, CW, digital, emergency services, requirements to join any level of ham can get in there, ARRL field organization appointments, official relay station, which I am, digital relay station, which I am, and section traffic manager, who is Jim Brown, and NA7G in this state. And I'm going to let you hear some of his code here a little bit later. We'll talk about that. So message formats, ARRL radiogram. How many people have handled traffic in this room? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, thank you. This is what the form looks like, and we'll talk a little bit about how to fill this thing out, and I'll give you a little bit of background of this, because this was actually a sample that I used for a presentation a few years back, and you'll get an idea of that from possibly some of the message. But this call sign, KR7APR, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Davis County Radio Club, but that's the call sign that we put on our portable potty that we take up to field day. And so when you try to pronounce that, KR7APR, it's sort of a crapper. And so we've went ahead and used that. But this is what the form looks like. What you'll typically have is the message number, and the message number is yours. Whoever originates the message, whoever gets that and starts it off on its journey, gets to pick the number. You can use any structure you want. I have had people that I have picked up messages for that use the full year, then the full month, and then a 2-digit number or a 3-digit number for their messages. Personally, I simply start off everyone with just the month, and then a 2-digit number for them once, because I don't originate that many. I mainly pass them. As a matter of fact, the largest number of messages I've passed in a month was February of this year, 223. So that was a lot for me. And I was filling in for some other people at the time. But here you've got the handling code, Hotel X-Ray Charlie, and that indicates whether or not that person is expecting a response back from this message. It can sometimes mean that I want you to delay delivery of this for XYZ number of days or to a specific date, which might be handy if you are sending a birthday wish, as an example, because oftentimes they will put that delay in there so it actually shows up to the person on their birthday. The check digits, 14, that's how many of these things you've got in here. You'll notice the way the ARRL radiogram is formatted. You've got 5 spaces, and when you get down to the bottom, you're looking at 25 total, and that's what they suggest that you try to keep it limited to. We'll talk a little bit about how to make that more efficient in a bit. Time filed. Depending on where you are, this may be either local time or it may be universal time coordinated, Zulu time. Most of the time that I see this, if somebody's going to put the time field in there, it's going to be UTC, because that's going to make more sense. And for a lot of traffic reports, that makes more sense for the people that are trying to maintain those logs. Oftentimes, for probably 98% of the traffic that I handle, the time is not filled in. It's only the date. And that's typically the way that gets sent out. Then you've got who it's going to. In this case, it was going to Field Day, Monte Cristo, Utah, which is where it was that year. Here's a telephone number that you can put in for the person, and you can also put in an email address for the person if that is appropriate, or that's the way you want them to contact it. At the bottom of this message, it is signed by whoever originated or whoever started the message, and then once you pick up this message, then you document down here who you sent it to and when. So that's the basic format. Any questions on this? Everybody seen this before, or does this make sense for what our radiogram format looks like? What? Precedence, I'm sorry. Precedence, routine. There's 4 precedences that you will see. One is routine. One is wellness traffic. Wellness traffic is typically what you're going to see, and that's going to be denoted by a W. But wellness traffic is something that is typically done if you check in, for example, on some of the Saturn nets and so forth during hurricane season. Wellness traffic is where somebody puts a message out there that says, I'm going to Aunt Martha's, we are evacuating the coast, and that's where we're headed, the family's doing fine, that kind of information. Because when cell towers are down, that's the only way they can get messages out. The next one is priority, which means there is some urgency to it. And then the last one is emergency traffic. Emergency traffic, you will typically see that spelled out rather than just abbreviated. And also, if somebody has emergency traffic on a net, when they come on and they break in, they will say, break, 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 or emergency, 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 in order to get somebody's attention. So repeating that 3 times. So that's just some protocol that you'll find on nets. Thank you for that question, and thank you for not letting me skip over that. Place of origin, I also clicked over 14 of the check digits. If you do this, you get 5, 10, 14. That's the number of messages in there. You do not count the signature in that. So that's basically the format there.
Tell us about the X's.
Which one?
X.
The S? X. Okay. I'll tell you about the X's. That's a period. So if you're reading this, this is the ARRL, and since that's not a word, you'll typically spell Alpha Romeo Romeo Lima. Radiogram, form, X-ray. That's a period. And then you move on. Detail to follow. X-ray. Have fun. 73, and then you end. You don't put an X at the end. You don't need that period. That's a waste. But that's what those X's are for. That's a period, and that's a break in a logical. The other thing that you can do if you want to put a question mark in there is you put in a Q for query. I don't see that very often. But it's something that you can do. Good questions. You guys are actually paying attention. I love that. Thank you. And I should say, I've known Marvin long enough, or well enough, going through the big program a couple of years ago, that he doesn't let much slip past him. So going this in a little bit more detail, the preamble, that's this section up here at the top. This is all the information that's in there. Addressee is going to be name, call sign, if a ham, full street address, and so forth. The radio message was received at station identification of origin. Text 25 words, signature, received and sent, and that's the radiogram. Now, there's something called canned messages, standard messages, ARL numbered text messages replaces common phrases in the message body. So for example, happy birthday, greetings by amateur radio. Use of ARL texts reduces the total message size. And I'll show you an example of that when I do a couple of examples here in just a minute. If you receive a message that's got an ARL standard message in it, and you are the one delivering it to the final recipient of the message, it's your job to interpret that ARL message to them. Don't make them do it, because they probably won't know how to look it up, especially if they're not a ham. So that's one of the things you have to do as a delivering station if you are the final one delivering it. And I'll tell you the other thing, and this is something that I've had some conversations with others. Bill Moyes is really good at this, N7IE. He does a lot of traffic handling as well. But when you receive a message and you send a message, you do not say, for example, on the Beehive net, that I delivered a message to W7VQ and he's going to pass it on, because you didn't deliver the message, you sent it to him. Delivering is only the last station that goes to the actual recipient of the message. That's who's doing the delivering. And so that helps precision of, especially if you're doing the public health, the public service reporting and so forth, PSHR. If you say I've originated some, that's the number of messages you yourself originated to send out. Then you'll say the number that you sent, the number you received, and the number you delivered. If you're making the phone call or putting that out to on an email, for example, to the person that's actually receiving the message, that's the only time you count that as a delivery. So, some examples of ARL number text. ARL 46 is greetings on your birthday and best wishes for many more to come. Remember that 46 because you're going to see that again. Whoops. You're going to see that again in just a little bit. ARL 47. So if you deliver a message or you send a message to somebody that they've asked for confirmation, you can send an ARL 47 message which interprets to your message XYZ to so-and-so delivered UTC. And so all you would need to send in that message is ARL 47 1234 John, May 10, 1806 Zulu. And so that shortens that entire message down to something that's a little bit more manageable. ARL 51, greetings by amateur radio. Yes, sir. It's 3 message spaces. Yes, it is. And as a matter of fact, when you do that, one of the things, if you are handling traffic that's got a message format like this, you would put in, for example, ARL 47. If I was sending that by voice, I would say ARL. I would spell it out phonetically, Alpha Romeo Lima. And I'd say 40. I spell Foxtrot Oscar Romeo Tango Yankee 7, and spell that out phonetically as well, so that they're not writing down the number, because that's not the message. The message has got to be written out as text. It's not the number itself. And the same thing for ARL 67. Your message number, undeliverable because of, you get this one a lot, ARL 67, 1234, bad phone number, 7 3s, and you're done. So that shortens that out. How many people, for those of you that have been handling traffic, how many of you seen or know that the Radio Relay International group has got their own set of standard message numbers now? They're very similar to the ARL messages, but they come in differently. They're preceded by RRC. And so if you take a look at the message text, anytime you're going to put in either an ARL number in the message or you're putting in an RRC message in the text, the check digit will say, I think I've got that here someplace. Yeah, we'll come into that. Where that check digit on the other message I showed you up there says there's 14 characters. If you've got an ARL message or an RRC message in that text, the check digit will say ARL 14 or ARL 15, whatever the check digit is, or it will say RRC 14 or RRC 23, depending on how many words are in that checkbook. So there are some differences in these messages. There's actually a few more in the Radio Relay International than there are in the ARL ones. And if you want to take a look at that, all you've got to do is go to that handy-dandy website right there, radiorelay.org/publications, to review and become familiar with some of them. If you're going to do any message traffic handling at all, and I've got this in my shack, I've got a sheet that shows all the ARL standard numbers and all the RRC standard numbers that are in there. How many people are familiar with Radio Relay International? I'll tell you a little trivia. And that is, I know on the Beehive Net, when they say part of the national traffic system, technically that's not true, because most of what we're running is from the Radio Relay International. Both of them are doing work, both the ARRL and Radio Relay International are doing work across the country, but the wide area network that I get most of my traffic into, or that goes out through me, that's actually staffed and managed by Radio Relay International. They have got some excellent education material out there on their website. both if you're looking at getting WinLink up or some of the other digital nodes. But that's a great resource and something that I would encourage you to take a look at, and you'll see some of those in just a little bit as well. These are the handling instructions. So HXA, HXB, HXC, and so forth. You'll notice on that one that I showed you before, in the sample, it was Hotel X-Ray Charlie, report date and time of delivery, time of day to originating station. So if you're simply passing that message on and you're sending it to another ham and they're the ones delivering it, you don't need to do anything with that. But the one that actually delivers that message is obligated to originate a message back to the originating station for that message and say that your message, 1234, was delivered by voicemail or by text or email or whatever it happened to be on XYZ date. And that's where you'd use that 46 message, that standard message format. Some of these are not used very much anymore. HXA is a great example. Collect landline delivery authorized by address within X miles. We don't do long distance calls like we used to back in the day when you had to actually pay a lot of money to get something just to go to another city, much less another state. And so some of those you're not going to see much anymore. But the HXB followed by number, cancel message if not delivered within X hours of filing. So if something's important and it becomes a worthless message after a certain period of time, you may see that one. Delivering station, get reply from addressee, originate message back. K6HTN, Kate Hutton, that is the handling instructions on all of her messages that she sends out. HSF followed by number, hold delivery until specific date. That's the birthday greeting I was telling you about. But that'll give you an idea of some of the handling instructions and what those are used for. Now, here's a Morse code example. This is a message that I actually picked up from Jim Brown. He was on the wide area traffic, and what I'm going to do is play this for you, and what you'll hear when this first comes up. How many people here know Morse code? Oh, I bless you guys. I love that. I'll let you follow along with this, but this is actually from my QRV, question mark. Are you ready? There you go. Thank you. What you'll notice at the end of each one of these lines, he sends a pro sign AA that says go to the next line. AA. You'll notice on the email, they actually send this email as n3aiu@arrl.net rather than trying to put in the code for an @ sign. Now, that's the message. I like playing this for, and I just QSL'd that at that time. You got it over here, thank you. I don't know if anybody's ever read any of the studies, but you can send traffic about twice as fast on CW as you can voice. So if you go through this message, and if you were to look at that same piece of traffic handled as a voiced message, it would take you longer to send it than it does in CW. The reason for that is actually pretty simple. Number one, for that PVRC member, you're going to spell that phonetically. So you're going to have to say, instead of just sending those 4 letters in Morse code, you're going to have to say PVRC, Papa, I spell Papa, Romeo, Victor, Charlie, and then move on to the next one. And if there's any fills, you're going to have to worry about that with voice. Whereas if you're doing it with Morse code, especially if you're using full break-in keying, all I've got to do is hit my dash a few times. Jim stops sending, and I just say again, all after, give him the last thing that I copied if my pencil broke or whatever it happens to be, and then you pick it up and you just keep going. And so it's a lot more efficient. And once you get done to the message, if you're operating in that fashion, you've got everything. You don't have any questions about anything that was sent, and you don't have to do any fills. So that's just that's my soapbox for everybody. Should learn Morse code because it's fun. And if you do, go out to CW Academy. That's a great free website. They've got some good software online, and I've actually been an advisor for that since I'm a member of CW Academy. So, some CW nets that you can tune into and listen to. Utah CodeNet. This is actually a slow speed net for people that want to learn how to do message traffic handling on using CW. And it meets at 1930 hours on 3570. 3570, you'll notice that one is a big one for all of the CW. It's on 80 meters. That 12th region net, which is where I picked up that piece of traffic I just played for you, that meets every night at 10 p.m. on 80 meters on 3570. The voice nets, high noon net that meets at noon on 7240. Beehive net on 7272. That's all going to be mostly voice traffic. The other thing that I run is a digital node on my station at home, on my home QTH, and I'm using BPQ32. It's actually monitoring right now to see if something's coming through our node here in Utah, which is Rich Fisher's NS7K, and if it's anything bound for Utah, it'll come over to me. I'll pick it up, and I'll usually drop it in on the Beehive net or on the high noon net, depending on what that traffic is on a regular basis. So those are the nets, and these are ones that if you want to listen to them and see what's going on the traffic handling, it'll give you some good exposure for that. Now, if you're doing emergency communications, chances are you're going to run into this form, which is an ICS 213. How many people are familiar with this from your ARIES classes or from whatever? Okay, very good. This is the one that is part of the ICS structure, Incident Command System structure. And you'll notice a couple of things that are different here. One, you've got the incident name, which is optional. Some of the ones that I've actually been deployed on, for example, the gun range fire in Davis County, that's what have been up there as the incident name, gun range fire. Or wind incident. That's another one that can happen as well. To and from, subject, date, time. You'll notice that there's one thing that's missing here, which is a number. That's something that, especially with my military background, drives me nuts. The fact that there's not a number on these, but they're really designed to be done not only just by radio communication, but also by runners and for other reasons, and by other modes. And that's one of the reasons why this format is a little bit different. There's a section down here that says approved by name, signature, position, and title, making sure that you've got somebody that's actually said this message should go out that way. And this will be something that maybe need more cots at evacuation site A, whatever it happens to be. And somebody's got to approve that so that somebody doesn't just go buy a bunch of beds and have them show up there. So this is the format you'll see for ICS 213. This is designed to also give you a reply. And so if you've got this as a piece of paper in somebody's hand and you take it over to somebody and you give it to them, and what's important is that you don't just give it to a person by name, you give it to them by their position. Because if you say it's going to Bill Jones and Bill Jones happens to be taking a break to get some sleep for 8 hours and it really needs to go to the medical operations person, then that he's not going to get it for 8 hours and that message is going to not be acted upon. So that's why the title is important, more important there than the name as far as the location is concerned. This is the information that you'll find on an ICS 213 as far as what is supposed to be in there. Assigned to the name that's assigned to the incident, and it's optional. Name and position the general message is intended for. And if it's an individual, use at least the first name or the first initial and the last name. For unified command, include agency names. So if this is going to be going, for example, to a medical unit or to unified fire or going to some group like that, that's the name that needs to be in there. Then you've got the rest of this information is pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to go through and read that for you, but it's something you can go through and look at. And for those of you that are experienced with using an ICS 213, it makes sense, but it requires some management and some tracking because it's not as automatic as it would be as if it actually had a number. And one of the things that you'll find on an event that you're participating in, if you've got an ICS 213 message that says something such as, we need more blankets at XYZ location, please advise when they can be ready. Okay, that requires you as the communications person that's tracking those messages to come up with your own tickle system to where you're going to go back and make a note to yourself that says, at this time, I need to check and see if I've gotten a response to this message because I was expecting it by XYZ time or somebody else was as well. So managing that flow of messages becomes a little bit more challenging in any situation. This form doesn't really facilitate it as well as I think it could, but that's just me. Yes, sir. It can, and that's a great question because one of the things that will happen, for example, if you send a message out and you're sending it on radio, let's say you're using N-beams or something like that, that's a digital form of it. You'll send that message out, and then when you get a reply back, what you would like to be able to do is then associate that with the original message to send out and say this response actually goes into the reply side of that message so that you can track those things together. It makes after action reports a lot easier to do if you can find a way to put those back together. If you're actually carrying the message out to a location, they'll actually just put the reply on the form and you'll take that piece of paper back. That's not radio communications, but that's the way that form is designed to be used in those kinds of situations. Good question. Yes? Good question. I'll answer it. I'm going to answer it this way, and it depends on the agency in charge. Because what should be happening is, if you're net control for one of these locations or for an event, you should be keeping a log of everything that you're doing. And I would highly encourage you to have a scribe doing that because you can't do both jobs effectively. In the cases where I've been net control for an actual event, I've got a scribe that can be documenting what's going on and and where that paper is going to go, it's going to be stored within the Emergency Operations Center someplace. Usually for mine, it starts off at the net control station. At shift change, I will collect up all that information for everything that has been cleared, And I draw a distinction there because if I've got something outstanding, I'm going to leave that piece of paper with the new person that's taking over for net control. But you're going to want to take all that information and give it back to whoever the incident command is, or if that's what they want, or the agency that's in charge of the event so that they can have that available for their after action report. So it's going to be agency specific as far as what actually happens with it, but it should be collected. Yeah, go ahead.
And with many incidents, the incident control manager often moves up the scale as the incident becomes a greater thing, and it might eventually go to FEMA. But all of those forms are eventually, in a real incident, eventually go to the ultimate control manager or the agency that's involved. And they form a basis really for the payment or for the funding of the incident.
That's true. And you're right, the reimbursement that happens with that. That's exactly right. And so, again, it depends on the agency in charge, whoever's got ultimate jurisdiction over the event and what they want to have done with that form. Because at the end of the day, if you take a look at the overall structure of of the incident command structure, communication sits as a component of logistics. And it's one of the services. There's 3 services and 3 delivery things. They deliver food, they deliver medical to the people that are in charge, and they deliver transportation. And then when it comes to services, that's when it becomes communication. And I'm going to draw a blank on the other 2 right now, which is embarrassing, but that's where communication sits, is in there. And so at the end of the day, that communications is to support the people on the ground doing the work, which is the operations group. And so that's what you're doing, is you're collecting information that will help them be effective in what they're trying to accomplish within a specific time period, or whatever their plan is. And then it becomes documentation of what was done during that period, and that goes into the after action report. Thank you, Gene. This is the one that is used to request stuff. This is 213RR. A lot of people haven't had a chance to see this. This is not a message that you're typically going to send by radio. But if you do know the format and you're going to have to read through this, it's going to take you a while to get through this message if you're trying to get it from point A to point B using a radio. If you are using a radio, I would highly encourage you to be doing this using WinLink or NBeams, where they've got these formats that are already out there. You can fill them in and you can send them electronically. That makes it a lot more efficient. But that's the most effective way to be able to deal with this. But I wanted you to see that because it is part of the message formats. Okay, I think I asked this before, had a couple of hands on NTS 2.0. There has been some work that's been done. Marcia Ford, KW1U, has done a lot of work with the American Radio Relay League in putting this piece together. And they published their first letter on October 3rd, 2023, of what's going on with that. Basically, this NTS 2.0 is trying to integrate all of the different modes and all of the different formats into something that can be used in an integrated fashion. That's ultimately what the goal of NTS 2.0 is. They have added some handling codes, for example, HXI. This is indicating that an encapsulated message is included, meaning that you could have a radiogram, but within that radiogram included an ICS 213 as part of the text. That's an encapsulated message. And so those are things that are going on, because not only do you have different formats of 213s, but if anybody has gotten into doing some of the messages in WinLink or in NBeams or in some of the others, you'll know that they've got those message formats are already included within that software that's running those transitions, those digital modes, and they're not necessarily all exactly the same. There are also some other ones that have been created that are different for some of the other emergency organizations that are around. And that's some of the challenges that are trying to be addressed by this NTS 2.0. I would encourage you, if you're interested in it, if you simply take a look and you look for the NTS 2.0 letter, you will find it. Or you can simply, if you're an ARRL member, you can go out to the ARRL website and you can say, start sending me that letter. It's one of the ones you can select now to be automatically sent to you each time it comes out. HXR is the other one. Respond back that the recipient personally received the message. So in other words, it's not something that you can leave a voicemail message and assume that they got it, but you want to make sure that that message was personally given to the recipient and they actually got it. And so that's the other handling code that was added to that. Some resources that are out there. I mentioned Radio Relay International. I would encourage you to take a look at that. ARRL, obviously, and looking at the National Traffic System. And this little site here, felge.us, TFC, Traffic Tools. This thing is just a gem of pre-canned forms. This is where I print off my station logs, is from this site. And that's the one that I use, and it works really well for me, but there's a lot of other reference material in there as well. So with that, I'm going to be done. I'm sorry I took so long, but questions, comments, thoughts? Was this helpful? Yes. Okay. Yes, sir. Which one? I would if you'd put it up down here. There it is. Yes, sir. What do you do? What? Well, the word count is the word count of the word count, and so you can have multiple ones. So if you've got an encapsulated message, you're going to have a message count of all of the words that are in there, and then you're going to have a message count of the encapsulated message in that as well. It's going to be more than 25, and that's part of the challenge with that, is the fact that it has gotten bigger. If you take a look at that radio form, and you go back and you look at some of the early Western Union telegrams, they look a lot the same. That's where that was the genesis of that radiogram form, and that's why that count 25 was more than enough. People knew how to be brief when they were sending a message because they were paying for it by the word. And so we're getting much more verbose in our digital age. And so the word count is and I will tell you, one of the things that's interesting, I picked up some station traffic messages that are really about how much was about a specific meeting of one of the stations that handles traffic that goes, for example, from Central to Western or Eastern to whatever, or up in Canada, what have you. And I've actually picked up messages that have got a word count of XX because they didn't count it. They simply are trusting that it's going to get sent correctly. I've actually received some other messages which I found interesting. I picked up, this has happened on more than one occasion. I'll get a check digit of 23/25. Now, all I do is make sure that the word count matches one of those two numbers, and I'll pass it on because obviously, well, not obviously, but I can only assume that the person that's formatting that message is not holding true to the intent of the check digit. And so I need it to be close, and I'll move on with it. Or it means that there's 23 messages in the text, and the signature has got another 2 words in it, name and a call sign. And so some of those you don't know the intent when you get there. And the other piece that becomes challenging with that is where you've got somebody that is sending words that can sometimes be split into 2 and sometimes are left as 1, and you've got to hopefully be dealing with a Morse code operator whose spacing is spot on, because if they're not, that becomes a problem. That's one of the examples going back to my experiences when I went to radio school in the military. And this is the example that they use, which is if you send the message with poor spacing that says "we train," and the spacing is wrong, it turns into a weather forecast of wet rain. And so that spacing becomes very important with CW. And when I'm doing message traffic handling, and I'm sending a message on CW, I will really make those spaces between the words a little bit longer than I maybe normally would, just to make sure that the spacing is clear about where my word breaks are. And if I end up putting a space inadvertently in a word, I'll simply send question mark and I'll resend it and get the whole thing through to where I'm not getting it wrong. But that's a good question, and that's some of the things they're still working on in NTS 2.0 is how they're going to fix those kinds of problems or address those kind of problems. Good questions. Yes, sir. AA, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so if you go through and you listen to somebody that's sending a message on CW, what you'll see is they'll go from the end of the preamble, because the end of the preamble is the date. That one you don't need to tell somebody to go to the next line, because as soon as you got the date, the next thing is going to be the first line of the recipient. But if it's going to Rick Mead, W7VQ, then you hear da-da-da-da, go to the next line. And that AA together is just in the address section, simply goes on. And once you get done with that address section and you send telephone number and email, so you see telephone number, AA, email, if that's in the message, and then you'll see here break, BT, da-da-da-da-da, and then it goes in and it's just word count after that until you get to the very end, which is going to be another break, da-da-da-da-da, and then signature followed by AR. I'm done. And in Morse code, for example, it would be if you were sending 3 messages, for example, you send the first one. At the end of that one, you send AR2, meaning I've got 2 more to go. At the very last one, you send ARN, meaning I'm done. There's no more. Okay, thank you. There is a litany of text out on the ARL website on traffic formats and how to run a CW net and how to check into a CW net, how to pass traffic a CW, how to send book traffic, which is something that happens a lot. The message that I was telling you before about Kate Hutton, K6HTN, she sends this message out. She gets this off of the site, or off of the license site, and her message has been the same for all the years I've been handling traffic. It is greetings by Amateur Radio X-Ray. Congrats on your new amateur radio license, X-Ray. Ask Deliveringham for more information about this message, 73, break, signed Kate, Kilo 6 Hotel Tango, November. I know that message by heart, and so I already have the text for it, and so when I get a book of traffic that Jim Brown's picked up from the Western Area net, that's got messages for her, and she usually sends them in blocks of 6. I don't know why that is. I will get a message from him that starts off, here, book, B-U-K, that's the way he abbreviates it, 6, routine, and you send the preamble, and so it will say, book 6, routine, Hotel X-Ray Echo, Kilo 6 Hotel Tango, November, 23, Pasadena, California, and then just the date. There's not a time on it, December 12th. And then, as soon as he gets done with that, he sends NR for the first number, puts the message number in there, and I get a recipient. Once I get that recipient, it just goes on to the next number. If it was new text or had changed, what would happen, he would send that book of 6, and then as soon as he gets done with that, he would go right into the text of the message, and then at the end of that, he would send break, and he would send number 123, first recipient, number 234, next recipient, number 345, next recipient, and so forth. So that way you're not having to resend the body of the text all the time. You're saying, I'm sending the same message to these 6 different people. I've got another one, and this will also happen this way. If I get a book of 3, I'll get this. I can't remember his call sign right now. I should know this because I get messages from him all the time. And this is he's sending information back on your message blank sent or delivered blank by blank. And what he's doing is he's sending, here's your message number, here's who it went to, and here's the time that I delivered it. And so he will send me that, and then he will send me message number 1, and then all he sends is message number, person, time. Message number, person, time, message number, person, time. That's all going to the same person, same ham that originated these messages, or that he got the messages from, and he's simply telling them how all that happened. So there's lots of different ways you can book traffic together in order to make it even more efficient than sending them individually. And it just you get used to it over time, and it just becomes automatic. Yeah.
Some time ago, Venus, who a very popular member of this, how many of you know Venus? Remember her? Yeah. She would send radio relay messages to everyone, congratulations, when we passed our first license, and my first radiogram was from her, congratulating, but she would send it. She would send it in such a way that she could send the same message to a number of people who were just on the ALS, who had just gotten their license, and it was posted by the FCC. And the last thing that I got was 2 weeks ago from you.
Yeah,
thank you.
And the thing that was interesting about that particular one, that when I picked that piece of traffic up, I said, well, I'm going to send him an email directly, because one of the things in there, in the text of the message, was, I hope you get this. So I had to make sure that actually happened. Other questions, thoughts, comments, discussion?
Yeah, actually, we have a couple viewers that did want to comment, or did just at least give you a good job. There's Pete Butterfield that was saying that it was really worthwhile information, and thanks to you, and Kurt Benjamin saying you should get back into traffic handling, get a lot of issues.
Do it. It's fun. It really is, and it's a skill set that will become valuable at some point in time when there's actually an event that you need to support, and it gives you one more option. There he is.
Is there a time frame for implementing 2.0?
There are some goals, but what I would tell you is you got volunteers working on it, so it's not moving maybe as quickly as people would like to see it move. But the fact that you've got letters coming out now on a regular basis shows that it's got some traction, and they're still trying to do some things to sell it, I will say, and to actually integrate it into the national traffic system. But again, you're dealing with two different organizations, both the American Radio Relay League and also Radio Relay International, because they're both participating in traffic that goes across the country and truthfully across the world. I will get some of the congratulations of your license from Peter, DL4FN. He's in Germany, and he originates those messages coming back. And that's the other thing that you may see in a message. You'll see this on one if you get one from Peter. He says, service and op reply to, and it's a guy down in Richardson, Texas, and I've forgotten his call sign. But what that means is if you need to send an op note back saying the phone number was bad, or I wasn't able to deliver this message for whatever reason, it's got to go through the guy in Richardson, Texas, and then he will get it back to Peter in Germany, because that's the way he's got that set up.
Are both organizations at the table?
Yes. But the fact that RRI is there is because of some struggles of the ARRL in certain sections back in the day. So there's some challenges working together, as with you had some of the same things. I mean, the SaturnNet, there was actually, that broke off, and there's two SaturnNets for a while. I'm not sure if there still are or not, because they didn't like the way one group was running, and so they said, well, we don't like that, so we're going to make our own organization and go from there. Politics, it's everywhere. Other questions? In that case, I will just say thank you very much for letting me share this information with you. I'm going to turn this microphone back over to somebody else. Oh, Mr. Match.
Thank you, Rick. That was great. Did everybody get a ticket when they walked in? If not, see the man with the beard. He's got them. And he's also got the bucket to put them in after you put your mark on it. We have 8. We have 8 today, Linda. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 there. Is that right? Yeah, 7. One more. Okay, one more, Linda. That one right there. Okay. Okay, first come, first serve. The prizes are right over here on this corner, right next to Bruce. Bruce, hold your hand up. Thank you. I'm going to call these out. Linda, H7HVF. I think this thing is rigged. Okay. Bruce, KF7OZK. Rick, KG7GOW. Scott, K7HSR. Rod, W0EE. Brian, KZ7Q. Dave, KF7QHA. Doug, KD7NZA. That's it. Thank you, Linda. All right. Well, time to go home. Merry Christmas. See you next year.